Hello viewers, welcome once again to this channel, Joe Mwai's channel. This is a channel that questions on reality, questions on what we have been presented versus what we believe or what we have found out, those of us who are deep thinkers and seekers of truth. And I would say that I have waited for a period or up to a period when my mind has fully matured in order for me to be able to say without a shadow of a doubt that what I say is deep-seated, is real, is true, and is a constitution of true reality of existence. I am just turning over 60 now, and as a result of that, I believe that the 25 years of research that I have done to come up to the conclusions that I have today, and which I am now sharing with you through such videos, is something that is a culmination of a well-researched investigation, as well as well thought and very deeply thought. And I would say that I'm also involved in a lot of deep meditation, where I focus my mind towards the realm of infinite universal intelligence, which I believe as an intelligent being I'm a part of, and I'm its highest representation. And I know that a lot of people, especially those who will understand my background from a Christian perspective or Christian background, will then be surprised and wonder how could he come up with such opposing views. But I have researched, and I did a lot of research that I would like to share with you today. Whereby I queried on the rationality of the Bible. I did a deep research, and you can Google this, the first 300 years of Christianity, as well as the Roman rule. And when you study those two areas, you will come to a lot of revelations. The first thing that I did before I came to understand something that I'll share with you was to question on the original letters of the disciples and the apostles that constitutes the New Testament in the Bible. Because since growing up and having been brought up in a Christian background, since growing up in church, I had been made to believe that the original letters of the disciples and the apostles are locked somewhere within the Vatican City in the archives, and that the Vatican's having those original letters can be able to release them at will. And what I then wondered is why the Vatican had not released those letters, despite a clarion call, a call by especially theologians who have always wanted the Vatican to release those very important documents, and other researchers as well. But I came to understand that the Vatican does not have the original letters, and this amazed me totally. I wanted to understand where these letters then are. And what I came to understand is that and this is why it is important to study the first 300 years of Christianity. And we know very well, those of us who are from a Christian background, that there was a lot of persecution of the disciples and the apostles of Jesus, right from the death or the resurrection of Jesus, when Jesus purportedly ascended back to heaven. Where these disciples are seen to have been persecuted. Some were stoned, some were crucified upside down, and they went through tortures, the 11 disciples, the 10 disciples, only one where we don't have the history, and I think this is John, of any torture, any form of persecution. But we know that even Paul, and especially Paul, who is believed to be the father of the Gentile faith, was crucified upside down. So there was a lot of persecution. And what we have not been told is that this persecution, which started right from the word go, where we see in the Bible even Paul himself, who was then known as Saul, getting a letter from the Roman rule and the support of the Jewish people to go out there and annihilate the people of the way, as the disciples of Jesus were known at that time. And as the story goes, it is on his way to Damascus to persecute these people of the way that Jesus appeared unto him in the spirit and converted him and changed him. But that aspect of persecution went on, and the reason why it went on is that, to begin with, the Jews did not believe in Jesus Christ as the Son of God, and the Roman rule were threatened, and especially that the Roman rule was threatened, or the Roman Empire was threatened by the emergence of this new doctrine or new religion. And the reason for it is because, fellow listeners, the people of the way, or the disciples, when they were preaching to the people, to the masses, they would say that the same Jesus who had conquered death and rose from the dead and ascended to heaven in plain sight, had promised them that he would come back and he would take his charge and he will rule his charge for a period of not less than 1,000 years. Now, what this means, and it is an emergence of a new world order, but what it meant to the Roman Empire, which had ruled the world for over 400 years, since the days and beyond the days of Socrates in Greece, is that if this Jesus then came back and took his church and ruled his church for 1,000 years, and the church was spreading like wildfire throughout Europe, the same place that had been conquered and was under the Roman Empire, then it would imply that the Roman Empire, or the Roman rule of the world, will come to an end. And this is why they had supported, or they had combined with the Jews, or the Jews, to try and annihilate this new doctrine. What we find is that as people heard of this promise by a savior, someone who has conquered death and ascended literally to heaven, they would go out there and sell their properties and bring the proceeds to the church to be shared equally amongst everyone. And what that implied is that these people would not pay the taxes of the proceeds to the Roman Empire or the Roman rule. They would not work every day because they were congregating every day to hear of this new doctrine. So they were not working, they were not paying taxes when they sold their properties, and as a result of that, the economy of the Roman Empire was suffering and was affected very, very deeply. And therefore, the Roman rule or the Roman Empire had to find a way to contain this religion. And that is why they were hell-bent on supporting anybody who would who would even volunteer to go and annihilate these people. And that's the emergence of Saul. And we have learned very well from the Bible that Saul was one of the most educated people in Rome. And in order for one to be so educated in those days, he had to undertake the discipline or the doctrine of philosophy. They had to travel to Greece initially to study philosophy. But because the Roman ruled Greece as well, and they could not rule them as underdogs, they took cover and learned and studied philosophy a lot. And when they in their studying philosophy, then scholars from all over Europe did not have to go all the way to pardon me for that sort of brief disruption. They did not have to go all the way to Greece to learn this new discipline of philosophy. So that is, in my belief, why Saul had become a Roman citizen, because he had traveled as a scholar, because he was a scholar, he was a lawyer, he was a teacher of the laws of Moses, and therefore very educated, had traveled over to Rome like any other scholar from all over Europe in order to study the doctrine of philosophy, which had been introduced by Socrates in what is today regarded as critical thinking, which questioned on reality. So in the same manner that they had conquered that they had suppressed that and been able to manipulate and take it over, in this case they then had to do something about this new doctrine in order for them to safeguard their empire. And so the persecution that is so clear and clearly documented of the disciples and the apostles, and especially those who participated in writing the New Testament, their persecution was, or their annihilation was paramount, was very, very important to the Roman rule. And so the Roman rule worked to the nail to ensure that they suppress this religion. But the more they tried to suppress it, the more it appeared to grow. And it is said that it grew like wildfire. But you can imagine from that up to that point that if they are persecuting the disciples who are enlightening people on the Savior and how he would come back and take his religion and rule them for 1,000 years, and this is the Son of God, then you can see the effect that he had. So these people had to suffer. They were persecuted, they were killed. But let me ask you a question, fellow listener and fellow viewer. Do you think that the Roman Empire plus the Jews who were persecuting the disciples and the apostles would only persecute them and kill them, but leave the letters that they were writing, information that was so crucial, information regarding Jesus and that sort of thing? Asher, I doubt it. And so as they were being persecuted, the letters and any document that they had relating to this Messiah were taken away from them and were destroyed. But we know, if you Google, you will find out that by 80 AD, only a very few of the original letters are believed to have been to still be available. The rest of them had been destroyed, had disappeared totally. And therefore the letters that we get today, for example the letter of Matthew, the book of Matthew, the book of Acts, and all the 13 books I think of Paul, and we are told that if you Google, you find that in the 13 books of Paul, only 4 of them are believed to be his original work. But other people would come, they would now rewrite that information as they had been given by the disciples. But you can imagine what happened when information is passed on to a third party who is now trying to write it as the original. It will never be original. But that's not enough. we see that 300 years of persecution, of trying to contain and suppress this new religion, the Roman Empire realized that they were not getting anywhere, they were not winning, they were losing. And they then changed their tactic and used an approach: if you can't beat them, join them. So what they did was to then purport to have embraced this new religion and told its followers that we need to reorganize ourselves. In the first place, we need to give these people of the way a name and call that doctrine Christianity. So the term Christianity was coined by the Roman Empire. They then told the people that you don't have to congregate every day, but you can choose a day, one day in a week, when you can meet and study this new doctrine. And then they took the letters that were available by that parties, remember, and compiled them, put them into a book that they call the Bible. And then they told the people, and remember, they are doing this in order to safeguard their empire. So they told the people that the same Jesus that you've been waiting for, because we are not too sure anymore of when he's coming back, has chosen one person to be his earthly representative. And that is the emergency of the papacy, who would then be receiving instructions directly from Jesus and will be spreading it all to all the believers. And then formed the first church, the Catholic Church. And we see even today, traditionally, within the Catholic faith, the sermon that is to be preached every Sunday is the same throughout the world and comes from the Vatican. So they did this to contain, and they surely managed to contain it. But up to that point, I can tell you for sure that only God knows what they did to manipulate even further the letters, the books that have been written by third parties from what they had heard from the disciples and the apostles. And in my understanding, after so much meditation and focusing, this is related very clearly by Jesus in the parable of the farmer and the workers, when he had told when the farmer had told the workers, had given them wheat seeds, to go and plant them in the farm. And as the story goes in the Bible, they went into the farm and worked the whole day. And when the evening was come, which means when they had completed and filled the planting throughout the farm, they left home. But when they came the following morning, they found that bastard wheat had grown amongst the proper wheat. And they went to the owner of the farm and told the owner of the farm, aren't we the people who planted this wheat? Who then is it that came and planted the bastard wheat? But with the wisdom of a good farmer, the owner of the land answered them and told them that the evil one had come in the night time and planted bastard wheat amongst the good wheat. And they in their little wisdom proposed to go to the farm and uproot the bastard wheat. But what I can tell you about the bastard wheat, fellow viewer and listener, is that The bastard wheat is very similar to the real wheat at its early stages. The only difference becomes apparent during the production when the real wheat produces the barley, the wheat itself. The bastard wheat does not produce anything. And therefore, the owner told them to hold on lest they uproot the good wheat in the process of uprooting the bastard wheat until the harvest time, when the good wheat, the wheat itself, the barley, the germ itself will be harvested from the wheat, and the rest will be, the chaff will be taken away and burned down. And I take that parable to imply the word of God as was given by Jesus to what was written down in the Bible by people who had no interest in the spread of this religion, but who did this deliberately in order for them to safeguard their empire, and therefore would change and tweak here and there the word as had been passed on by the disciples. And this corresponds very well with the book of Revelation, where now John, as he was shown of the things that were to come, is shown that the Antichrist cometh and is performing great miracles, including calling upon fire from heaven to fall down, and he would. And the children of Israel would believe him as the Messiah and follow him. And they would only realize that they have been conned when this deceiver goes to the holy place and demand to be worshipped. And for me, that deceiver is the wrong word that may have been put in by the Roman Empire for the purposes of safeguarding their empire. And the Antichrist, the same thing with the Antichrist, and that the holy place is the farm, which in this case, the metaphorical farm, which in this case is the Bible. And the seed given by the farmer to the workers is the word of God, as had been given from inception to the time of Jesus, which had now been mixed with the wrong word. And as a result of that, the Bible loses its intended meaning. And in the process of that, the creature stands at the holy place and purports to be the creator and demands to be worshipped. And therefore, when we worship the God of this world, and when I talk of the God of this world, my understanding is that the creator, the purported creator of this world, the material sense of reality, which, as I discussed in my previous video, is an illusion from the point of view of the infinite universal intelligence of my absolute being that I have recently discovered. And understanding it from that perspective, then it is for that reason that I'm so convinced that this material sense of reality constitutes of an illusion. But it is also biblical, because Paul is talking, I think, in the book of Corinthians somewhere, about that the universe is held captive and groans and travail until the day of redemption of man. The redemption of man is the day that man will realize that he's not a human being, but is an intelligent being in the likeness of a celestial being, the highest representation of his maker. And in my particular case, I am the highest representation of the infinite universal intelligence. And in order for you, fellow listener and viewer, for you to understand what I mean by that, the highest representation, is a scenario where I stand in front of the mirror. If I stand in front of the mirror right now, and I'm then able to the reflection, my reflection in the mirror is the highest representation of myself. If I have 1,000,000,000,000 threads of hair, my reflection will have 1,000,000,000,000 thread of hairs, not one less, not one more. If I blink my eye, the reflection instantaneously and without no time at all does the same thing. The size, my height, my color, all the features that I have are represented precisely with 100% precision in my reflection in the mirror. And therefore, if I am made in the likeness of my maker, assuming my maker in the scenario case of the mirror to be the real me and me the representative to be the reflection, the reflection in the mirror, then I represent my maker in every way. But I cannot represent my maker from my physical appearance, because my maker has no form, has no body, but is pure intelligence that permeates everything in every way. And because I have intelligence, then it is that intelligence within me that is the highest representative of my maker, the infinite universal intelligence. And it is only through that I am able to accept and to understand how there is a God, not in the way we've been made to believe, but purely an intelligence that has no beginning, that has no end, that is infinite in every way, that is immortal, which means that it is eternal, that is incorporeal, which means that it has no body, that is of one quality only because of its infinitude, and cannot harbor anything negative, anything unlike the qualities that I've spoken throughout my previous videos, which includes all that pertains to a perfect God, and that is the God that I have discovered. But I have come to the end of this season. I would like you to continue watching, continue listening. If you have any comment, just write it down there. But continue to subscribe to this channel and share it with friends. And until next time, adios, amigo.